Over 30 million Americans call themselves motorcycle enthusiasts, but most of them couldn't tell a Frisco from a digger if their life depended on it. Here's a truth nobody wants to admit. The word chopper gets thrown around so wrong so often that even guys who've been riding for 20 years are calling the wrong bike by the right name. Today we fix that. 23 styles, 0 fluff. And by the end of this video, you'll know more about chopper history than 99% of riders on the road. But first, the style that started it all isn't actually a chopper. Subscribe and let's ride! Why most people get choppers wrong. Most people can't tell a real chopper from a costume, and the motorcycle industry knows it. Walk into any dealership, they'll slap the word chopper on anything with chrome and attitude. Wrong. A chopper isn't a style you buy. It's a frame that's been cut, welded, and rebuilt from the ground up. No exceptions. That rule eliminates half the bikes people call choppers, including some that cost 50 grand. 23 styles, 1 truth. By the end of this video, you'll spot a fake chopper from across the parking lot. The birth of the bobber. The chopper didn't start in a custom shop. It started in a war. GIs came home from World War II with grease under their nails and no patience for heavy, over-decorated factory bikes. So they stripped them. Fenders, gone. Windshields, gone. Anything that didn't make the bike faster, gone. That brutal simplicity had a name, the bobber. And without the bobber, there is no chopper. No Jesse James, no Easy Rider, nothing. The whole culture you love traces back to this one raw, angry, beautiful machine. Stick around because every style we cover today was born from what these veterans built in their garages. What officially makes a chopper a chopper? Here's where 90% of the arguments at every bike night get settled. People debate this constantly, loudly, usually wrong. A chopper has one non-negotiable rule. The frame must be cut and welded. Everything else is style, but the anatomy matters too. Extended forks, raked front end, hardtail frame, no rear suspension, stretched wheelbase. Remove any of those elements and you've got a custom, not a chopper. There's a difference and it isn't small. These aren't opinions. These are the rules the original builders lived by. Next up, the style that perfected minimalism before minimalism was cool. The classic bobber style. The bobber didn't just start custom culture, it embarrassed every factory bike on the road. Single seat, chopped fenders, stripped frame. Nothing on this bike that didn't earn its place. No passenger seat, because nobody's slowing you down. This is ground zero. Every chopper builder who ever lived either owned one, studied one, or quietly wanted one. Born in the 1940s from veterans who had zero tolerance for unnecessary weight. Still, the most honest motorcycle ever built. Raw, loud, unapologetic, and still winning arguments 80 years later. The 1950s short chopper. This is the style nobody talks about, and it's the missing link between the bobber and everything that came after. The 1950s short chopper kept the stock frame but pushed the front end just slightly forward. Subtle, intentional, dangerous looking without being unrideable. It's the moment builders realize style and function don't have to be enemies. The customization scene was exploding. Hot rods, custom culture, rock and roll, and right in the middle of it, guys in garages quietly inventing the visual language every chopper builder still speaks today. The Bay Area Frisco style. One man, one city, one style that rewrote the rule book for every builder that followed. Arlen Ness came out of the San Francisco Bay Area in the late 1960s building bikes nobody had seen before. Long, low, raked at 45 degrees or more. Springer forks, Sportster motors stripped to their bones. The Frisco style didn't just look different, it rode different. Aggressive, narrow, and impossibly cool. While everyone else was building tall and ornate, Ness went the opposite direction. Long and low won. It always does. The Denver Long Bike. If the Frisco style was bold, the Denver Long Bike was a provocation. In 1967, Denver Mullins and Mondo Porras opened Denver's Choppers in San Bernardino and immediately started building bikes that made every other chopper look conservative. Longer, taller, stretched up and out in directions nobody thought were structurally possible. These weren't motorcycles anymore. They were rolling sculptures that happened to have engines. Springer forks so long they defied common sense. Frames so tall they redefined what a silhouette should be. Denver didn't just push the envelope, he mailed it to another zip code. The Easy Rider Captain America Style. One movie, 94 minutes, and the entire world wanted a chopper overnight. Before 1969, choppers were a subculture known to a few thousand riders across California. After Easy Rider, they were a global phenomenon. Peter Fonda's Captain America bike was everything. Extended front end, stars and stripes paint, Sissy Bar reaching for the sky. It didn't just put choppers on the map, it burned the map and handed builders a new one. Overnight, every garage in America had someone attempting that silhouette. Most failed. A few legends were born trying. The Sissy Bar Chopper. It started as a legal requirement. It became the most recognizable symbol in chopper history. Laws required a passenger retention fixture on every motorcycle. Builders, never ones to follow rules quietly, turned that requirement into an art form. Sissy bars climbing 3, 4, 5 feet in the air, higher than the rider's head. Welded steel reaching toward the sky like an antenna picking up rebellion. What the government mandated, builders weaponized into pure style. Nobody looked at a 6-foot Sissy Bar and thought practical. They thought, now that's a chopper. The Digger. Arlen Ness went to the drag races one afternoon. The entire chopper world changed the next morning. The Digger was born from one obsession. What happens when you take a drag bike's DNA and put it on the street? Long, low, narrow, coffin tanks, girder forks, motors built for punishment. While everyone else was building up, Ness built down, closer to the ground than physics should have allowed. This wasn't a show bike, this was a statement. The Digger era faded by the mid-1980s, but its DNA lives in every long, lean, custom-built since. The Hardtail Chopper. No rear suspension, no compromise, no apology. The hardtail is the chopper in its most unfiltered form. Frame runs straight from the neck to the rear axle, nothing in between but steel and attitude. Every bump in the road goes directly into your spine. Riders knew this, builders knew this. Nobody cared. Because a hardtail doesn't just look rigid, it rides with an honesty that softtail riders will never fully understand. This is the style purists defend loudest at every bike show, and they're not entirely wrong. The Springer Fork Chopper. Before hydraulic forks existed, builders were already making motorcycles look this good. The Springer fork predates the modern suspension system entirely. 2 parallel blades, a rocker, and a spring. Mechanical simplicity that somehow produced one of the most beautiful front ends ever bolted onto a motorcycle. Builders kept coming back to it long after better technology existed, because better technology didn't look better. Vintage, elegant, unmistakably old school. When Indian Larry revived the Springer in the 2000s, a whole new generation finally understood why the original builders never wanted to let it go. The Ape Hanger Style. The government tried to ban them, riders built them higher anyway. Ape hangers, handlebars so tall your arms reach up like a primate grabbing a branch, became so culturally threatening that multiple U.S. states passed laws restricting their height in the 1960s. Builders responded by moving to states with looser regulations and welding them taller. That's the entire chopper philosophy summarized in one beautiful act of defiance. Functionally questionable, visually unforgettable. A bike with full ape hangers doesn't enter a parking lot, it arrives. Every head turns, every conversation stops. That was always the point, and everybody knew it. The Drag Bar Low Bar Chopper. Same era, opposite philosophy, and somehow just as iconic. While ape hanger builders were reaching for the sky, drag bar builders were doing the exact opposite. slamming the handlebars down to just inches above the tank. Flat, straight, aggressive, the riding position leaned you forward like you were already racing something that hadn't showed up yet. If ape hangers said, "Look at me," drag bars said, "Get out of my way." Two completely different attitudes, two completely different silhouettes, both undeniably chopper. The drag bar style fed directly into the digger movement and later the pro street era, proof that the lowest bar in the room sometimes carries the most influence. Never underestimate the quiet ones. The pro street chopper. The 1990s arrived. Builders got access to better technology, bigger engines, and wider tires. Some used it wisely. Pro street builders used it gloriously. This style took the lean DNA of the digger and fed it steroids. Radical rake, high horsepower, modern engineering wrapped in old school attitude. Pro street was the moment custom building stopped being a subculture and started becoming an industry. Shops were open and everywhere. Magazine covers were dominated by these machines. A new generation of riders who never touched a wrench suddenly wanted one in their garage. Bold, fast, technically sophisticated. The Pro Street Chopper didn't just bridge old school and new school, it blew the bridge up and built a better one. The Jesse James West Coast Chopper style. One name, one logo, one shop in Long Beach that made the entire world pay attention again. By the late 90s, choppers were fading. Custom shops were struggling. The culture needed someone to drag it back into the spotlight by force. Jesse James did exactly that. West Coast choppers combine old-school hardtail geometry with obsessive modern fabrication. Every weld, every detail, every inch of steel treated like it belonged in a museum. Jesse James didn't revive chopper culture. He grabbed it by the throat and refused to let go. Celebrities lined up, waiting lists stretched years long. A man with a torch and a vision single-handedly reminded the world what a real chopper was worth. The OCC Theme Chopper. Love 'em or hate 'em, and the chopper community is deeply divided. Orange County choppers put 2 million people in front of their televisions every week to watch motorcycles get built. That's not nothing. Paul Sr. and Paul Jr. turned the chopper into primetime entertainment. Fire truck choppers, military choppers, Spider-Man choppers. Every build themed, polished, and delivered dramatically under deadline. Purists cringed, newcomers fell in love, and the industry cashed checks it hadn't seen in decades. Were they real choppers? Debatable. Did they introduce an entire generation to custom motorcycle culture who otherwise never would have looked twice? Absolutely. Undeniably, without question. Sometimes the flashy thing at the table feeds everybody. The Indian Larry Old School Revival. While OCC was chasing cameras, one builder from New York City was quietly dragging the entire culture back to its soul. Indian Larry never wanted fame. He wanted truth. The kind that lives in a hand-welded frame, a knucklehead motor, and a Springer fork chosen because it was right, not because it was trendy. In an era drowning in chrome excess and television drama, Indian Larry built motorcycles that made serious builders stop and stare in silence. He won every biker build-off he entered, not because he outspent anyone, because nobody could outcraft him. Larry died in 2004 performing a stunt at his show. The old school revival he started never stopped. Some legacies refused to sit still. The Fat Bob style. Everything we covered so far has been narrow, lean, and stripped down. The Fat Bob looked at all of that and asked, what if we went the other direction entirely? Wider tires, fatter tanks, softer suspension. A riding position that said long distance over short burst. Based on Harley-Davidson's Dyna platform, the Fat Bob brought genuine comfort into a world that had spent decades deliberately avoiding it. This wasn't a compromise. This was a different argument altogether. That a chopper-influenced bike could eat miles without destroying your spine. Road warriors embraced it immediately. Big, confident, planted to the ground like it owned every inch of asphalt underneath it. The Fat Bob didn't apologize for being comfortable. Neither should you. The Bagger Chopper. Take everything the Fat Bob built, add luggage, add a windscreen, add a passenger seat. Then rake the front end, drop the bag, stretch the fairing, and somehow make the whole thing look meaner than a hardtail. That's the bagger chopper, and it shouldn't work, but it absolutely does. Custom bagger builders took a touring motorcycle, the most practical, sensible machine on the road, and turned it into one of the most aggressive silhouettes in modern chopper culture. Coast-to-coast comfort, zero compromise on attitude. This is the style that exploded through the 2010s and never slowed down. Families ride them, clubs ride them, legends ride them. The open road never looked this intimidating pulling into a rest stop. The Lowrider Chicano style. This style didn't come from a garage in California. It came from a culture, and that difference matters more than most people realize. The Lowrider Chopper grew directly from Mexican-American communities in Los Angeles who had already mastered the art form on four wheels. When that philosophy moved to two wheels, everything translated perfectly. Hydraulic lifts, candy paint so deep you could swim in it, chrome so polished it hurts to look at directly. Every inch of the build carrying cultural identity and personal history simultaneously. This wasn't customization for show. This was customization as storytelling. Every bike a biography, every detail a declaration. No other style in chopper history carries this much meaning per square inch. The Lowrider Chopper isn't just a motorcycle, it's a portrait. The Japanese XS650 Chopper. Everything we told you about choppers being Harley-Davidson territory, this style threw that rule book into a bonfire and never looked back. In the late 70s and early 80s, a generation of builders who couldn't afford Harleys or simply refused to follow the crowd discovered the Yamaha XS650. Reliable, lightweight, surprisingly willing to be chopped, raked, and rebuilt from the ground up. The XS650 chopper didn't just prove a chopper didn't need to be American. It proved a chopper only needed one thing, a builder with a vision and enough skill to execute it. Japanese motors, American attitude, zero apology. Underdogs building some of the cleanest and most honest machines the culture's ever produced. The best choppers were never about the badge on the tank. The factory chopper, real or fake? Honda built one, Harley built one, and the chopper community's been arguing about it ever since. In 2009, Honda released the Fury, the first mass-produced factory chopper ever sold off a dealership floor. Extended forks, stretched frame, low seat, everything visually correct. But here's a problem. A true chopper requires a frame that's been cut and welded. A factory bike has never been touched by a builder's torch, which means, by the original definition, it isn't a chopper, it's a costume. Does that make it worthless? Absolutely not. Does that make it a chopper? Absolutely not either. The factory gave millions of riders an entry point into a culture that used to require a welder and a dream. That's not nothing, but it's not everything. 23 styles, one bloodline, and a culture that refuses to die no matter how many times the world tries to bury it. From a World War II veteran stripping a Harley in his garage to Jesse James welding through the night in Long Beach, every single style we cover today carries that same original obsession. Build something real, make it yours. Apologize to nobody. Now you know the difference. Use it. If this video gave you something, subscribe. New deep dives into motorcycle culture, legendary builders, and the stories nobody else is telling. We'll see you in the next one.